Alright, this is Nem, your friendly neighborhood rogue, coming at you with another review, this time of Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. And I want to start this review by listing a few caveats. Firstly, I want to say that while this is going to be a pretty negative review, I don't think this is a bad game. But I didn't finish it. I stopped playing pretty soon after I picked up the screw attack. And I think part of that is on me, and I think part of it is on the game. But just bear that in mind while I review it. All in all, I would say I think this game is probably a 7.5 out of 10. I also think it's important to note the caveat that this is being played on an emulator using Prime Hack, which adds mouse support. And the main reason for this is that I somewhat recently played Metroid Prime 4 about half a year ago. And I simply enjoyed that game a lot more with the Joy-Con mouse than with the thumbstick gaming, so I figured the same might be true for this game. And also, yeah, I know what YouTube thinks of people playing on emulators, but come on, Nintendo won't even sell this game to me on any of their own stores, so it's not that easy to get your hands on it. As for my history with the Metroid Prime series, I think I should also state that I have played Super Metroid, Metroid Prime, Metroid Dread, and Metroid Prime 4, and now Metroid Prime 2, in that order. And of those, I think all of the previous ones are good. Even though I will say that Metroid Prime 4 also has a lot of problems. Dread though, I think Dread is absolutely fantastic, same with Super Metroid. But as I do with these reviews, let's start with my negatives, and most of these are related to the gameplay and how the gameplay works. Firstly, the Dark World. While I think this is a good concept, if executed well, this game isn't one of those instances. If you want to look for a good example, I would point towards Legend of Zelda or Link to the Past, which I think has done a lot more with good shadow worlds. In this game, however, the shadow world for me is filled with a lot of major and minor annoyances. The big one is the draining health, and not the draining health in and of itself, but more specifically what it leads to. Because the draining health on its own is fine, but to prevent it from feeling too harsh and giving players some breathing room where they might need to stop and look around, there are plenty of crystals placed around the map that they are either like pop as a bubble immediately, or you shoot them and they pop a little bubble, and that recharges your health. It does so slowly, and I do mean slowly, at about 1 energy per second, which means that every full bar of health takes you about 1.5 minutes of just standing there recharging it. And the main problem with this is that after almost every major combat section in the Dark World, I would simply leave the game running while Samus stood in one of those crystals for however long it took to heal, and I would go do something else, like watch a YouTube video or go do the dishes. And I simply don't think this is a good design. But I also don't think that is how the developers intended me to play. Because I think they simply wanted these to be breathing spots and wanted you to keep pushing on. But due to how the save system works, which is pretty punishing in the regard that if you die, there's no checkpoints or such, you fall back to your last save at your save station, which means you can lose quite a bit of progress if you die. It sort of incentivizes the player to make sure that they have max health, since they don't know like what's around the corner. Could be a boss, could be a hard encounter, and that means you're gonna stand in these to recharge your health. Now, the second gripe I have is with the combat. I think that enemies are a bit too spongy. And while I learned pretty quickly that my uncharged regular shots in this game are essentially useless, even when using your more powerful weapons, a lot of the enemies will simply tank more hits than I think feel good. And since you are limited on your other ammo types, like you have your missiles, your bombs, you have a few special ammo types that you use, like light ammo, dark ammo. Those are all limited. And that means that you oftentimes have to spend more ammo dealing with an enemy than you will actually get back, which means that you run lower and lower. That will inevitably mean you run into an encounter where you have to deal with an encounter using just your regular old pea shooter and maybe some rockets, because the rocket cap quickly goes very high. Now, exacerbating this problem is that I think that the movement during combat never really felt all that good. You have a dodge. I thought it felt very finicky, like a lot of enemies seemed like they had target-seeking weapons, so dodging didn't do that much. And as soon as you fight more than one enemy, it doesn't really work anyway, since they love jumping around. So you'll have one enemy in front of you that you're actually target focusing, and then you have two behind you who keep smacking you. And this for me meant that since combat only ever cost resources, i.e. health or ammo, and almost always was very slow, I eventually got to the point where unless the combat seemed mandatory, as in there was a locked door or such, I just started ignoring it and ran through. And I think this is a sound enough strategy in most cases, but they also have this cheeky little mechanic that they brought along from, I would say, the SNES and the NES days. I can't remember this being in Metroid Prime 1, but it probably was. Where whenever you get attacked, you get knocked back. Now on a 2D plane, I think this works fine. But this means that whenever you have to do some precision platforming or use the spider ball to progress somewhere and there's enemies around, you essentially have to kill them. And for me, an especially aggravating moment was in the, I want to say the Torvus, what's the name of the swamp area? There's a section where you need to go into Morph Ball and then jump up like little ledges and move around. And there's a plant on the wall that will try to pull you down and shoot you. This plant won't activate until you're actually on the ledge. So the first time I thought it was fine, but the second time I thought I'd be clever and shoot the plant. Doesn't work. You need to activate the plant before you can kill it, so you can't preemptively kill it, which I thought was just utter bullshit. And it doesn't help that enemies respawn as quickly as they do. I understand them not wanting to keep too much information in memory, but for me, I think it would have been better if enemy respawns happened when you left an area entirely, not just the room, but when you left one of the main areas. Then they could have respawned, because this means that when running back and forth, there will always be new enemies in the way. And I guess the idea is that it means the player has something to do while traversing the environments, but for me it didn't really add anything. I don't mind new enemies popping up when you've got a new unlock or like progress through a story moment, but the fact that as soon as I leave a room, they're essentially back. And this can be fights that take 30 seconds to a minute, which means every room is just extended by 1 minute. It keeps extending the game. I didn't think it was enjoyable. And thirdly, I think this is a problem a lot of Metroid games have, but the linearity of it. The amount of times that I found a cool new area only to be immediately stumped due to not having the required weapon or gear, it really does kill like the sense of exploration at some points for me. And eventually I started doing some of these areas more linearly. Like I would go through as quickly as I could and then come back later when I had more tools and knew that I would be allowed to explore more of it in peace. And I know the idea of keys and locks is intrinsically tied to the design of a Metroid game, but it wouldn't hurt to sometimes have a bit more options. Or alternatively, if they really did want the game to be as linear as it is, just always have a map marker for the next objective. Just be like, this is where you need to go, but you can explore outside of that if you want to. Because the game already has the function built in, but it will happily wait for you to fuck about for 5 to 10 minutes before actually giving you that hint. Which I can sometimes find a bit annoying, because I would literally be lost. And at certain points I had to consult a walkthrough, just because I couldn't figure out where to go, and the game hadn't decided that the 5 to 10 minute line had passed yet where it would actually inform me, like, yeah, okay, this is where you need to go. I also don't think it helps that I can't add my own map markers to indicate why I can't progress in a certain room. The map will show you which doors are locked, but it won't show you other things. It won't show you, like, this room, you can use the spider ball. And I think for rooms that you've already been to, it would be nice if I could, like, add that information myself. Because I had a lot of running back into rooms where I couldn't remember why I couldn't progress there, only to be reminded why I couldn't progress and that I didn't have the thing I needed to progress. The map can also sometimes be a bit finicky. Especially when spinning it around and moving it. I think the fourth area here, the Sky Fortress is not the name of it, but the technology fortress that you get to, where there's several levels to it, and if you slide the map cursor onto a level that's higher than the one you were currently looking at, it will sort of go up to that level, which is good, but it can be a bit finicky to get back down where you want to do. I would honestly have preferred just having like a little bottom to switch between the floors here. And also when spinning it around, sometimes it will just fidget into position where I just get confused about what the map is showing and where, but you can always just close it and reopening it. Lastly, and I don't know how bad this is because I never got to that point, but it seems like this game has the same fetch quest that Metroid 1 did. And as I said, I didn't get to the end game, so I can't say for sure this is the case, but it smells like it. Because on my journey I managed to pick up 2 out of 9 Sky Temple keys. And I can't be certain, but it seems to me that that's just the same pointless endgame fetch quest they had in Metroid Prime. And I'm not sure I feel like looking around for another 7 keys just to fight the final boss. Like, if I got to that point, I probably would have just looked at the guide. Could be that it's better than Prime 1, but if not, fuck that. Now then, on to the good. Firstly, the visuals. I think for a game of this era, it is a stunning looking game. The textures and meshes obviously don't meet modern standards, and it is almost like remarkably beautiful, even though like that's the case. Like you start in this desolate wasteland area, go down to swamps, high-tech bases. It is just constantly a feast for the eyes. And all of this is complemented with really good VFX, like the water effects, there's waterfalls, there's dust blowing, particles, little plants moving about, like all of it is just fantastic. I also like that they kept all of the visor effects from Prime 1, where like you get water on your visor, or steam, or gunk. Like it makes it adds a lot to the immersion of the game. And I also think the way all the guns and enemies look really well designed. They are very clear in the enemies, like showing what sort of move they're doing. Also really good. Animation, good. Secondly, the audio, all around good. From the pew-pews from the guns and the missiles to the soundtrack, fantastic soundtrack. Seems to use some music from Prime 1 as well. All of it really good. Really helps set the mood, like get you into that world and immerse you. I don't think there's much more to say about that audio, it's just simply fantastic. Third, the combat, movement and upgrades. I smashed these two together. While I don't think movement in combat, out of combat, I don't think the movement in combat feels all that good, but the out of combat movement really does feel good. Like jumping, rolling around as a morph ball, grappling hook, all works as you'd expect them to, Unlike Immortals of Abium, which I reviewed earlier, they could stand to learn a lesson here about how to use a grappling hook. Because the grappling hook here is good. And I also like that most of these moves you unlock feel really good when you chain them together. Like you will jump up, turn into Morphle, roll into something, jump onwards, unmorph, like, do a hook, like all of it. Really good. And I think it's a shame that the GameCube didn't allow for larger rooms, because I think that they could have done something like really good with the movement they have. Maybe Metroid Prime 3 does more with this, I don't know. But it feels really good to move around in the game. And I would also like to highlight the upgrades here, and essentially all of them are just returning favorites. But there's also no reason to change what works. I sort of assumed that this sequel was made on a shorter time span than Prime 1, so reusing powers that were already coded and designed I think was a good choice. And the only real complaint I guess I have about the power-ups is that the second visor you get, the sound visor, felt pretty pointless apart from showing you like the little points to shoot to solve the puzzles. Maybe there's a boss later that utilizes it more. I never got there, but the visual of it, where you can see like sounds, really cool. Speaking of bosses though, the fourth thing I would like to lift as a positive here is the bosses, because they are all varied in their design. Almost all of them require some sort of either clever thinking or, you know, choosing a new ability. It's not just all blasting. And I think variety really is the key here. Like, there are several duels against Dark Samus, which are more like standard shootouts. There's a lot of fighting in the Morph Ball. I guess, for example, the Spider Ball Guardian and the drone in the tech base. They're shooting a giant moth while you hop around between platforms suspended in Dark World goo. And that's also the second boss of that fight. And I think all of these fights, except Grapple Guardian, fuck him and his wonky hitbox, were really good. And with Grapple Guardian, you need to get behind him and shoot him, but it's really iffy where it will actually count as you being behind. Like, it seems to be less about where you aim and more about where your character is placed in relation to him, which just, it didn't feel good at all. Yeah, and I think one problem with the boss fights is that you can run out of important ammo before you get there or during the fight. It's not as big of a problem because almost all these bosses will either have a move that spawns in the actual health and ammo. To go back to Grapple Guardian, he will sometimes charge into a pillar and spawn health and ammo and missiles and such. And there's another boss, for example, the Moth, will spawn in small ads that you can kill to replenish your stock of ammo. So it seems the developers were aware of this. Most of the bosses you fight in the Dark Realm will have these light crystals placed out, which I think diminishes the boss fights a little bit, because if they weren't there, you would be on a hard timer to kill the boss, or if nothing else, a hard timer to get the boss to do the thing that will let you replenish your health. But now, almost all of them felt not very dangerous, because I could just stand inside of this healing, like, globe all of the time, and just jumping out and in when I needed to. There is one fight where you fight in Dark Realm and there isn't any of these ones, like the healing crystals. And I think that fight was probably the best Dark Realm fight. It's the one where you needed to Morph Ball and drop bombs when he was in his shadowy gooey form. And that about sums up my thoughts on the game. I think Metroid Prime Echoes 2 is a good game. I don't think it's bad, but I also don't think it's for me, and I am probably not going to finish it, which is why I'm posting this review here. This has been Nem, your friendly neighborhood bro. Have yourself a good summer.